What you see before you is really the cornerstone of Thomas and Friends. This is the Railway series. First released in 1945 and going till 1970. We're not going to talk about Christopher stuff today. There is a lot to say about that. It is really quite a good series. I've read it all. I actually had the big book, which I don't know about. If you don't know about the big book, but the big book doesn't have all the stories. It's also a bit out of order. So I really wanted this. I think for my, I want to say 10th birthday, I got this set. And I loved it. It was one of my most prized possessions. In fact, it was this exact, well not exact, it was this style box. You'll see what happened to my original set in a minute. But it is very nice. You have all 26 books. You don't get Christopher stuff. No one really wants to publish that for some reason, but again, separate video. Now this is actually my original set, or my original box. You'll see why in a second. And I want to preface everything that's happening now by saying just one thing. No, I'm not wearing gloves, but I did wash my hands. Now you may be a bit confused by that. This is where I store the interesting books. These are all, from memory, first editions. Dead serious. Big shout out to TWR Ryan86 for helping me get the first 3. I think he might have helped with some other ones. I don't have all the dust jackets. But let's get started. I'm going to get started by pulling out the inserts just to make this job a little bit easier. Yes. This is going to be a bit of a rambling video, really. I'm not going to be talking like historical wise. More, I'm just going to show these off to you. This one I've actually had a short about before. This is the 3 Railway engines, first edition, from what I know. I think you can tell editions by the fact that there's nothing at the back of the book. Me and Ryan were just talking about a second edition because it has Thomas here. I think it also has a little graphic on the front. This one, as you can see, is not in the best nick. It's got somewhere. Value on these is hard to place. The thing is, in the UK, they show up enough, and people tend not to know that it's a first edition. It doesn't explicitly say anywhere that it is. A little bit of writing there. I don't tend to open this one up that much because, again, I don't want to damage it. Just Edmund Ward, and we'll see some differences in that later. But as you can see, it is the Middleton illustrations. Middleton? I believe that's what this one is. Beautiful. Would I like to get a better copy in the future? Yeah, but I also kind of like the fact that this is worn. You know, it's got a bit of history. It's got a bit of intrigue. Gently back in. Thomas the Tank Engine. God, I love these older books. They sort of speak to me, you know. Getting some writing. Reverend AWDRY. This has the original illustrations, but as you can see, it's also not really held together. I think that's the illustrations is just the running board. Was it Payne who did these? I really should have researched a bit before. But as you can see, these are falling apart. But that's just how it goes with the first few. It's very hard to find them in decent nick. James. I think they went to a sort of coloured one when you got to James. I think this also says explicitly that it is a first edition from memory. Let's have a look. No, it doesn't. Maybe that's a bit later. Nothing really to say about this one. It's more just James, really, because I don't think there was any illustration differences. You also see the covers sort of. These are all meant to have dust jackets, of course. It's very hard to find early dust jackets. In fact, the earliest one I have is for 4 Little Engines, which we'll see soon. A lot of them end up having dust jackets from later editions. But really, your hardest ones to get are your first three. The price sharply goes down when we start talking about Tank Engine Thomas again. It's also probably just because it's a little bit of a less desirable book. No differences, and really, it's not the most exciting thing. Mine's worn. No information, but it does say copyright. As you can see, mine's not in the best nick. They're all sort of falling apart with age. That's just sort of how it goes. Really though, out of all the books here, other than probably the first edition of the first two, the one that intrigues me the most is this one. It's got no information on it at all. This I got, I think, from memory, is part of a lot. It is the Welsh edition. Actually, it is. And it does say this is the first Welsh edition from 1950. This book is, well, this year must be, God, is it 74 years old? April, so it nearly is 74 years old. It's all in Welsh. This is actually in, honestly, I think there's somewhere here and there on some pages, but this is actually in remarkably good condition. Especially considering a book like this would just get tossed. Without the dust jacket, there's no way to tell what it is without opening it up. Very cool book. Probably my favorite book here. Quite a fan. Troublesome Engines. I think another one that's a little bit... I think this one's dust jacket's really hard to find. A lot of wear. Again, a lot of wear. But quite cool. I really like the colour on some of these. This one's a really nice one. Next up, we're not looking at that one. Next one is, yes, the controversial one. I will not be addressing the controversy here. But it's basically a racial slur in the latter half of the book. Probably one of the few times he really dropped the ball. This one's in decent condition. It is a first edition, although I believe the error exists, not error, I believe the comments exist for quite a while afterwards. A case of a book that's probably valuable for all the wrong reasons. Toby the Tram Engine, like the red on this one. I've had, to be clear, I'll explain what happened with where I got these shortly. But from memory, most of these came from Ryan. Or at least most of I think the first 9 came from Ryan. The rest I got, I think, as part of a lot. Also, this one's really, God, that's nice. This one's in really good nick. This one is, yeah, another one that's getting old. And the further we go up, the better condition they get. Oh my God. January 1st, 1954. Autumn. Some of them say the month, some of them just say the season. It's a bit odd. Now we get into the dust jacketed copies, and my first one with that is For the Legends. I believe this is the original dust jacket. Yes, it is. I still have the protector on it as well. I probably should actually take that off if I can. You know, we'll do that. We'll do that live on camera. Hopefully this doesn't go badly. It's all sort of taped on, so it's a little bit. No, I'm not going to risk it. But as you can see, this is why they sort of get lost. They're just very flimsy things. Some people do add protectors to them, which does help with longevity. I mean, I'll say this about this one. The book's in dodgy condition, but this is a really actually decent dust jacket that really deserves to be on a better copy of this, because like I said, it's got marks in it. These I bought from an older gentleman in Brisbane, and I will say of that older gentleman that he seemed to have been somewhat prolific in like repairing trains a while back. Age sort of caught up to him, I think, and he sold me a bunch of these books. I mean, I got 3-4 sets of the Railway series, all like, and I got 1 to 25, all in first edition. That's a nice one. There's less to show with these ones, so I might just sort of skip ahead to the dust-jacketed versions. Like this one. This one I believe I got. So I got a copy of the dust jacket from Ryan. These are all first edition dust jackets from memory. Is this actually one? Yeah, it is. Little old engine. This one's a bit worn. I try not to remove these too much. Don't want to cause too much wear. I believe I got this one from Ryan then. This is gallant old engine. Not damaged, but still, just to have the dust jacket at all is nice. I try to be gentle putting these in so that I don't damage them. I will get protectors for all these at some point. Rangeline engines. Another one, again. You got that one from Ryan. This one's in decent nick from the look of it. The twin engines. Definitely one of my favourite covers. Let's pull out this one. Stepney the Bluebell engine. Another one of my favourite covers. Mounted engines. And now I'll say that the next one is probably the most common first edition that I see. So if you want a first edition, keep an eye out for this one. Very old engines. They just seem to have printed a lot of these, and I'm not quite sure why. Advertising the Meccano set. I believe this is the first one to do so. Meccano. Very nice. And again, very easy to find this one. I've seen it a lot. Compared to the other ones, and to be honest, you start to see the first editions of the latter half really, really frequently. That's a pretty mid one. It's alright, it's just it's very mid. Oh yes. Small railway engines. Love this book. It's just a fun story. This and Jock are two of my favourites from the series. In fact, I really like mountain engines as well. Probably one of my better dust jackets, actually. In fact, this one's pretty much mint. This is Enterprising Engines. My god. Beautiful. Getting to the end now. All over the Western engine. I think from memory, my Duke the Lost engine is just the rear. Oh no, it's a slither of the front. He really is lost. You can't fucking see him. And just whatever's left of the back. So just being held together with friction. There you go. That's all I have. Now, probably the most disappointing part about collecting original editions is the fact that you can't get them all dust jacketed because the final book, Tramway Engines, was not dust jacketed, from what I'm aware. It's the first edition, and they switched away from it. Which is a bit tragic, but, you know, it's fine. This probably does take the biscuit of being the easiest to find, though. It's just everywhere. That and because it wasn't really... It was a very much... I don't want to say boring end, but... It just was an end, you know? It felt like we'd sort of gone back to just talking about Tank Engine Thomas again, and just... You know, I don't know. It just doesn't appeal to me like the other ones. It's just kind of boring. And for it to be his last book, it's just kind of tragic. Okay, put these back in. So for those of you wondering, let's talk value. I did not pay a lot to get this set together. But these books are getting more and more expensive. And they're not really getting cheaper. I mean, I see enough of them. So completing the latter half should be really easy. If you're not going for first editions, which frankly for 24 to 26 books you don't need to. Well, sorry, 23 of the 26 books, there's no real major difference. It's pretty easy to get just period editions. I mean, I see 1960s copies of all of these all the time. I think by that point they'd all gone to a single color too, so it's very clean. Definitely a set, and it's way easier to get dust jackets, and it's just a set I would recommend. The difficulty though is that you got to get 1, 2, and well, Henry, if you want to have the original copies. And I mean, Henry is not expensive, but I think it'll depend where you can find them. I've seen them in the UK a little bit, and typically people want 70 to 100 Australian, maybe less. I'm not that well versed. Look, people list 1 for whatever they want. I've seen a high. Bear in mind, a high of $5,000. No, the probably $400, maybe $500 get you an okay one. Although that might be out of date. If you want a dust jacketed, if you have a clean, basically near mint dust jacketed copy, that's when you can start just naming your price, because dust jackets are rare as shit, and very clean copies do not show up. They just don't. Same deal with 2. If you have a clean one in the latter half, maybe $20 to $40, depending on the book. I mean, like I said, probably your cheapest is going to be very old engines. No one really wants it. And of course, tramway engines. Tramway engines is definitely the cheapest. But for now, these will go back into storage. I basically just store them in here. They get sat on a shelf. And I don't really look at them that much. I like to keep them sort of well protected. This is not really ideal, to be honest. I should come up with a better system, or at least get plastic sleeves. But on the same token, I don't take these out often. This is the first time I've looked at them in about 3 or 4 months. Not that I don't appreciate them. It's just I'd rather keep them away from hand, like away from oils and away from just general gunk. And this is the best way to do it. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and bye for now.